Okay, this is my first time going live on YouTube on my phone, so please never mind the newbiness. I've gone live on several different platforms and I've gone live on YouTube on my computer, but not by my phone. So, um, welcome to my podcast. I'm so excited to restart this, to continue doing it. If you're here and you can hear me, please say something in the chat so I can see that it works. I'm not entirely certain what all these buttons do, but hi Margie May, good to see you. Today we have a really dear and intense discussion on shadow worth is what I'm calling the topic today. Are you able to hear me pretty well, Margie, or do I need to speak up or... Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited. I can't even tell you. I absolutely love discussing these topics, and in private chats, I've had long conversations about our spiritual nature and the dynamics of how we interact and interweave with all of these things, like even down to like all the illness. Okay. Um, I don't know if that helps, but we'll see how that works. So I'm really passionate about this kind of work, this energy work, this emotional intelligence work. It doesn't stop at emotional intelligence, but it is a really key piece into helping you discover things about yourself that you may not have known before. So today we're talking about shadow work, or shadow worth, because a lot of us, I think, live in that shadow worth, that shadowy self worth of I'm not good enough, I don't deserve, I am. I mean, it can go a lot of ways, but I doubt myself. I'm not sure. I'm struggling. I don't feel connected. I have a hard time reaching out to others. There's a like kind of a disconnection from this community piece that is otherwise really awesome and great. Bilal, thank you. Atul, thank you. How are you guys doing? Thank you for joining. I'm not good enough. I've got most of my grades as F. That's not good. Thank you, Billy. So as we are going to discuss today, we're going to talk about that shadowy part of ourselves. So my goal and mission and purpose here in this realm is to help people discover the harmony of themselves. And what do I mean by that? I mean that, like, for example, love languages. Love languages can be acts of service, but that is on this light aspect. But on this dark aspect, it will be pulling away from others and isolating. So when you're not, if your love language is acts of service and you're isolated from doing acts of service for your community or for your family or whoever it is, then you're going to see that that disconnection is something that is is a detriment. So we'll look at the shadow as a detriment, the light as a benefit. Um, I am in Oregon. Good morning to you guys. And so, anyways, we're gonna kind of dive deeply into this. So, shadow work is I remember sitting in a car once, and my coworker was driving me, and I was talking about, yeah, I'm taking this course, and I'm dealing right now with really intense shadow work. And she was like, you saying that just caused this ripple, like this electric feeling in my body where she had this emotional response, this bodily response to it. And so she was a little Um, she was a little concerned about even talking about the subject, let alone like doing the work. And I think a lot of us, when we think about emotional intelligence, which is the key part of what I'm teaching you today, we're also going to be looking at the energetics piece of how, when we recognize we've got this emotion, what do I do with it? Because I think a lot of us, I'm just speaking really for myself, is I'll feel a feeling and I won't address it. So I will completely, I'll completely freeze. And then it just sits in your body and it sits there until you do something about it. So the emotional intelligence piece also includes energetics piece of really diving deep into shadow work. So I have a list of, let's see if I can find my list here. Um, I have a list of some benefits and of some detriments of shadow work. So when we think about like a woman who is pining after a man and she just throws herself on him and dotes on him and wants his attention and pay attention to me, like, and she's kind of pushing it, and he feels that and he's like, I'm not excited about chasing this woman. She's like basically throwing herself on me and I am not responding to it. And then she is like, he's totally ignoring me, and it causes this anxiety in her. Then that that is a detriment piece of that. Um, but the positive piece of that, or the benefit of that, is like men kind of want that, you know, that devotion of a woman to to be able to serve her. And so even though she's acting in this shadow aspect, once she can transmute that into a light aspect, then it'll be a little bit more like she'll be more magnetizing for that man to pay attention to her. Or maybe many men, she has like a bunch of suitors, she's just gorgeous. So we're looking at like harmonizing this, because we don't want like a billion suitors and then I mean, maybe if you're single and that's your thing, but typically, like, we're looking at a monogamous situation, that we're wanting to have this divine union partnership with somebody, and for her to be in this anxious piece, um, certified will, what's up? um, for her to be in a divine union, then she is magnetizing. They're operating together in this beautiful, harmonious relationship, which is, I think, what a lot of people desire to have. Um, so, some of the benefits of doing shadow work, and shadow work, definitely, if you're not attuned to it and you're not used to it, please do so really gently. We'll talk about that. You don't want to just dive into it. You do want to kind of go gently, because sometimes you can be re-traumatized by the situation. Um, there could be some really deep things in your life that you've kind of put away, and it's a safeguard and a protection for you. And while we want to observe these and move through them and transmute it into something positive, I do want you to exercise a little bit of caution that you're not doing anything that's going to harm you mentally or psychologically and possibly physically. So we want to be, hi Tara, good to see you. We want to be really careful about like how we go about this. So um, some of the benefits that I've seen in the shadow work that I've done for myself is I have a deepened awareness of myself, and since I'm able to see it in myself, of others. and kind of pinpoint their shadowy aspects of them, and I'm able to bring it up because I've gone through the work of doing it. It's a very deep, I'm not going to say it's, what I say about healing is ugly. Like, it gets ugly. If you rip a scab off, it's going to be open, it's going to be oozing blood and whatever else is there. So when you're looking at doing trauma work, you're almost like taking this scab off, this that frozen piece, that thing that is protecting your being. It could be weight. Weight could be protecting your being. And so when you have that, it's an actual physical representation of your body naturally protecting itself. And maybe you're struggling with losing weight and you have a plateau. And a lot of the times, once you start doing some of this work, you'll start to see it. Like, I lost 30 pounds in like 6 months a couple years ago, and I've kept it off. And a lot of it has to do with doing this deep inner discovery work. Um, if you guys are here live and you want to like pop some questions in the chat or mention some things about what I'm talking about, I would love that. We'll definitely have a Q&A at the end of this. So that increased self-awareness will be really key into learning a lot about yourself. So I love to use this example. This happened to me a couple weeks ago. I got really deeply triggered by somebody doing things a certain way and then like asking me to have me do things a certain way when I'm doing like all this other work. And I got really pissed off. And I was like just really frustrated, upset, pissed off, like whatever it was. Because I'm no stranger to having emotional responses and feelings myself. I've had to deal with a lot of them, so I'm just being really frank with you guys. And then so I was like, why am I feeling this way? What about this situation is causing me to feel this basically these angry feelings, because that really just kind of summates to these angry feelings. So annoyed, frustrated, pissed off, whatever. So when I start to look at what about myself, this self-awareness piece, what about myself is reacting in this way, and why do I feel so strongly about it in this way? And I came to the conclusion that I feel these feelings because I'm unable to speak up for myself. I am unable to have this this action in this situation. I'm unable to have this action in this moment to speak up for myself. And I had some other things that I had come up with, but that is the self-awareness piece. That is working and transmuting through the emotion, because I felt it. And I was like, okay, I'm feeling it, and then I'm going to let it go, but I want to know why I had this reaction and how I can move through it so that at the other side, I can transmute this into a learning situation. If you guys are here and you're not subscribed to my channel, I'd love for you to subscribe to it. I think I have some other channels as well. If you are on those platforms, I'd love to have you on. Most of them are Soulestic Intelligence, but continuing on. So instead of me in my normal behavior, which is feel the feeling, stomp it down. Feel the feeling, stomp it down. Let's freeze it. I'm going to act in my survival mode. I'm freezing this. I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm not even going to think about it. I'm not even going to react to it. I am simply going to sit in it and avoid and ignore it. So avoid, ignore, whatever. I don't want to deal with it. It's uncomfortable for me to deal with it. I'm just going to stomp it down. So instead of doing that, I released it. I'm like, okay, I see how I'm feeling about that. I'm releasing it. So when you start doing the shadow work, you're doing things that give you a little bit of emotional freedom, because now I'm not holding on to that. I can see where some of my personality defects are, and I can focus on taking those in, transmuting those into something positive, and then the next time something happens, I can be a little bit quicker on the draw of like, yeah, you know what? Um, I like things this way, and please do them this way because this is the way I like it. Or come to a resolution of, okay, I know that you like it this way, I like it this way, but let's like come together and figure out what a mutual agreed upon solution is. And that is high emotional intelligence, is being able to come together and do that type of work within yourself so that you're not hung up later on in the same situations, not learning from it. Because insanity is continuing to do the same thing over and over without getting out of it. So we want to have that emotional freedom. Uh, Improved relationships. So this is definitely what I was just talking about, just having that really mutual agreement, being able to say your piece without fear of retribution. And some of us may feel that way from being mocked or scolded or whatever as a child by a caregiver. And then later on in life, we're afraid to use our voice. We're afraid to speak up, and our throat chakra gets really clear. And so a lot of people that have this, you can hear it in their voice if they've really been stifling it, because they'll be clearing their throat all the time. There's going to be something to do with their voice that's going to be, hello. I have a lot of, it's great to see you guys. I would love to have you guys following. I hope you're getting a lot out of this. Marcio, nice to see you. So you'll start to, you can hear it. Maybe they have like a cough, or like they're clearing their throat all the time. Like there's something, and I've had this periodically, and I'm like, okay, what am I not speaking right now? That is my thing that I need to communicate. What is it that I'm not saying? And then I can start to look inwardly. So improved relationships, and then enhanced resilience. So enhanced resilience is having this emotional, basically strength. So you have this strength within you that you're able to speak really clearly without having that fear that somebody's going to hear what you're saying and then they're going to shut you up. Which is mostly, those are mostly stories. Like, how often does that really happen? I know for me, like, I love to have people communicate with me openly. In fact, I had this one pager and I sent it out to a group, and everyone was like, oh yeah, it looks great. And then I'm like, does it really look great though? Like, is it really getting like what I want out of that? And then I sent it to another friend, and he was like, it's shit. You need to redo it. And here's some tips that I'm going to give you, but if I got this on the street and I looked at it, I would just throw it in the garbage because it's not speaking to me. It's not clear. And so like these two relationships, like two these people that are like saying, oh yeah, it's good, not really giving solid feedback or solid good criticism of what I had put out, which is what I wanted. I was like, please tear it apart, please tell me where I'm missing something, to another person, and then they're looking at it and they're like, you're totally missing your audience. Like, your audience is not going to see the value that you have. I know you have it, but they're not going to see the value in this piece of this one pager that you've done. They're not going to see the value in that. So with our enhanced resilience, it's easier for me to hear those things. Like, now I'm like, I'm really excited to hear your constructive criticism. I'm really excited to hear what your opinion of it is, and not to feed me these, oh yeah, it's great, oh yeah, like, that doesn't help anybody. It really doesn't help anybody if you're just placating somebody's feelings because you don't want to hurt their feelings by not speaking honestly about whatever they're asking you. So you definitely want to have that integrity and that trust and the resilience to hear something negative about yourself and not take it to heart. When he told me that it was shit, basically, I didn't see it that way. I was like, oh, okay. I love that you've given me this really great, strong feedback. And he's like, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'm like, my feelings aren't hurt. In fact, I sincerely appreciate the honesty and that you're able to speak this clearly to me, because now I can take that and change it to something that's better, that's going to be effective, that's going to escalate and elevate what I'm here to do in a clear way. And people, I think for the most part, love it. So I don't know if it's a good example or not, but when Donald Trump was getting elected president in 2014, 2015, he came on the scene and he was like, speaking truth, or whatever the truth version of what he was saying, and it fired people up. People love hearing things that are true. They love hearing things that are intense. Um, there's almost this part of our society that definitely wants to be kind of hooked in and grabbed with attention. Um, Jesus Christ is the same. Like, I would love to use him as an example. Like, he came and he was speaking truth to power to the Pharisees and the Sadducees and Rome. Like, he came in and he was so, I'm getting goosebumps because this one's probably a bit more intense, but he was speaking that truth to power. He was like not holding back. I mean, he had to hold back a little. He was like, don't share this, don't share this. It's not my time. It's not my time. Don't share this. But then once it was turned on, he was like, okay, share it. Like, he didn't even say, okay, share it. They just went and shared it. And they did it on he did it on such an intense level that, I mean, the reverberations of that truth that he was speaking and the resilience that he had in saying these truth to power things to the presumed authority at the time, the earthly authority, him being able to do that was like monumental. Like, it was huge. So just kind of thinking about that, when somebody is giving you feedback, accept it with gladness, because that is going to really elevate your. My friend made that for me. And so when we work on our resilience, we're looking at that. So if you're unable to accept this feedback, this honest feedback, and you get hurt feelings from it, or you get upset by somebody, that is an indicator on your end to look at what about this situation is making my emotions react, if you want to look at it from a mental perspective, or is there something in mentally that I'm not seeing, or that I need to learn from this situation? What is it? We're really looking deep into that kind of information, and we're waiting for these bodily responses. Our mind really telling us, like, here's what you need to focus on, here's what we need you to hone in on. More benefits of shadow work is personal growth. So once we have this heightened sense of self-awareness and this heightened emotional resilience, you're going to have a lot of personal growth. The thing that I warn you about personal growth is it doesn't always happen all the time. So you might get really long spurts of, oh my gosh, I'm like learning so much, so much, so much. And then it kind of goes into this downward wave of where you're maybe not learning so much. It's like a rest period. So maybe things aren't coming in as quickly, but then just know that it's going to come back up. So it does wave. It's a cycle, like most everything else in this realm is a cycle. So if you're on this really high peak of like, oh my gosh, I'm just getting so many downloads, I'm learning so much about myself, just know that there is going to be a depressive or kind of not, I don't want to say depressive in a bad way, but just there's going to be a depressive at some point where you're going to kind of take all that in, and you're going to rest, and the things that you know, and the things that you don't know, you're going to eventually learn again or maybe expand on. So you've got the detriment, and then you've got the benefit. You've got this cycle. So we're definitely going in a cyclical way about this, and things will, um, I like to call it ebb and flow, which is another great word for energy, because energy is kind of like water. So you have these ebbs and flows about yourself that really speak to, just speak to nature and its cycles. Okay, so personal growth and then authenticity. So once you start really looking at yourself and you're like, oh man, like I'm a really angry person. I need to take a really deep look at that, which happened to me about a month ago. I had posted this emotions wheel, and I've seen the emotions wheel before, but it had been so many months or maybe even years since I had looked at one. And um, I'm gonna pop this in so maybe you guys can hear me better. And yeah, I'm not, I'm analog. I just had to charge my phone a little bit. Okay, is that better? Hopefully it is. Um, so we have these ebbs and flows. I'm looking at this emotions wheel and I'm like, oh my gosh, like here I am thinking that I have really high levels of disgust. And it's not, that's not the case. What the truth of the matter was, is I had so much anger, and I had so much anger like hidden in these little emotions in this emotions wheel. And I'm just staring at the emotions wheel. I think I could even pull it up if you guys want to take a peek at it. And I'm sure you've seen an emotions wheel before, but here I am just staring at this emotions wheel like, good gravy. I am pretty angry. So we can see here, I was staring at all the emotions, but I'm really like looking at these ones of let down, humiliated, bitter, mad, aggressive, frustrated, distant, critical, betrayed, resentful, disrespected, ridiculed, indignant. I'm just looking at them like, man, I am feeling some of these like on a deeper level than I had even anticipated. I seriously thought I was disgusted. And so that really opened up a lot of things that I had to look at in myself because whew, anger is a very low emotion, and it's an emotions wheel. If you have a birth control pack like that, that's wild. So, as I'm going, yeah, if you're resonating with what I'm talking about, then yeah, like and they're very low. That's a very low vibration emotion because love is like in the middle, and we want to be in this experience of joy. I'm telling you, I've had the experience of joy, and it it was so incredible. Like just how closely I felt connected to source I was in that joy. And to be walking around feeling these low emotions, I'm like, dang it. Like, I still have a lot of work to do. I have a lot of work to do still. But now that I've really looked at this and been very honest about it, I can be more authentic to who I am, and people respond to it a lot better. And once you start dealing with some of these lower vibration emotions and transmuting them into lessons, or maybe learning something about yourself, and not that you want to always point things inward, because some things don't are not necessarily
they don't necessarily belong to you. So that's where the discernment piece comes in. And you start to really gain that once you start to look into all these things and have that access to the wisdom of being able to look at something and say, okay, here's the situation. It's not really this person that is doing things to me. It's me responding in this way that is causing me to feel infuriated or annoyed or whatever the feeling is. So yeah, authenticity, you start to be a little bit closer to your true self in those things, in that path. The other thing is having greater compassion. So I think there's this idea that we all should be just 100% compassionate and give, give, give. And if you're an empath, you're much like me, then you're also experiencing that connection to others. You definitely want to be in service to others and you want to be connected and you want the best good for everybody. Not everybody is like that. There are the opposite side of that is the narcissist. And I have a very polarizing position on the empath and the narcissist, which I feel that at both ends, they're very negative in personality defects. So, my goal here, my purpose, and my mission that has been made clear to me is I'm here to help with an equilibrium or harmonize this whoever is in desire to work with me or whoever is in desire to listen to my message, like the people that have come here and are listening to my message. I know how busy life is and I appreciate that you guys are here to even listen to what I have to say. And after a certain point I kind of get into a flow state, and so it's all what my purpose and mission is here for you guys, is to share these things. So I have a really high empathy. I've taken the emotional frequency test. And if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about getting a frequency test, you do need to have a certified coach that can administer that for you. But it shows you on a chart where you are with respect to all 26 areas of emotional intelligence, what your frequency is, and then we can develop a plan of how can we get you to be at a higher frequency. So that's what I work off. I'm a nerd. I love information. I love analyzing. I love trends. Like my favorite class in college when I went to college was statistics. Like I am very much a number nerd. So I love to have that as I'm looking at clearing up this chaos. I got that Riz, Brentley. I do got that Riz. So greater compassion. So when we have empathy, we can tap into how others feel. So I'm very sensitive to how others feel. In fact, I didn't even know what an empath was until I think it was 2020. I didn't even know what an empath was. That's how crazy that's how crazy life is. Like I have heard of empathy, but I don't know what an empath is. When I learned about it, I was like, "Oh, okay." Then things started clicking and I'm like, "Oh, okay. That's why I have this reaction to people." So I worked in an office. We had a sales team, and then we had a procurement team, and I was on the procurement team. And I would come into work, and like I would be sitting at my desk, and I'm just like, I can feel that this person is off. And it would bother me so much because I didn't know how to control or protect myself at the time. It would bother me so much. I'm like, dude, I can't even work. I have to go talk to this person right now to make sure that they're okay, because it was unsettling for me to feel that. And if you're born with empathy or being an empath, you know what I'm talking about. And I think that the narcissist can definitely learn from the empath these feelings of empathy, the compassion, the putting other people first, Like they can definitely learn from that, and that's how they can get out from being such an extreme narcissist. But then it's also important for the empath to learn from the narcissist of self-love, self-care, having that riz, and really being able to put others first so that they can work in harmony. I mean, this is emotional intelligence. We're working in harmony with both sides. So I have very extreme opinions about it. I think that blaming either a narcissist or an empath is not right. If you're blaming somebody, you're not taking authority or action or responsibility for yourself. And I'm very much about accountability, which is why I am getting into this work, because I think it's very important, and it should be done with a lot of love and compassion for somebody. Like, I'm not going to sit there and judge somebody for a life that they've lived. Like I said, I was like, dude, tear my one pager apart. Go ahead and do it. Like, shoot it to me straight, you know? And then finally, one of the last benefits I have listed here is improved mental and physical health. So once you're able to really look at this and not take your anger and just like punch it down deep into the deep depths of whatever cave it's going to live in, you're going to take that troll up and you're going to like kind of love it. And then you're going to send it up to God and like, okay, God, like I'm not going to deal with this anymore. I am going to take that away. And so this helps to alleviate stress. It helps to regulate your feelings and your interaction with other people. So some detriments of shadow work and trauma healing in general is that you are going to be bringing up some painful emotions or painful memories. And that's why I say to do this with the utmost love of yourself. Like, you don't want to just go in and like and rip into these really deep, painful emotions and then not be able to maneuver them out of your body. And so it really helps to have a coach to kind of walk you through these things, or even a therapist to walk you through the feelings that you're getting, and then kind of help you guide you along the way to bring you back to reality. So the way that I look at emotions is that they're energy in motion. They're flowing through you, and that's what they should do. So if you get, let's say that you are an electrician and you're like changing out something, you know to turn the power off. But if you don't have that, you're going to ground it. It's going to stay in your body and it's going to cause you to get shocked. So I like to look at emotions in a similar fashion. It's almost like this electricity that is going through you that you definitely want to feel, honor it, and then let it go. You want to have this open path of where it can be looped not inside your body but outside of you. So I like to imagine it's going back up to source, and that it's not going to be staying in me, that it's going to be flowed out of me, and that it's not going to affect me any longer, because it no longer serves me to have it there. Like, I've taken the lesson, I've taken the wisdom, I've squeezed out that juicy goodness that it's showing me, and then I'm releasing it back. So just when you do get overwhelmed, just remember there's some techniques that you can do to kind of to ground yourself again, to help bring you back down to earth. When I think about emotions, I guess the best way is, we know that women are very emotional, or emotional. I won't say very. I won't quantify it with very, but it is emotion. Like, women are emotional, and men have emotions too, but women definitely have a lot more going on than the men do. Like, they can kind of sit in their master emotional regulative state and just be really calm or stoic or poised, because they're like, these things don't affect me. While as women, we could be really hyperactive with some of the things that go on. I joke about it, but it is true. Like, I can have 20 up to 30, 40, sometimes 50 feelings in 1 hour, one day. And that is a lot. And so when you as a man are listening to that, like, holy crap, that's a lot of feelings to have. I don't feel that way. Like most of the time I'm pretty neutral. Whereas a woman, like if you're active or you're anxious or you have some sort of thing that's like stressing you out, which is a typical thing for a woman to have, then you are going to feel a lot of those feelings. And so it it really benefits women to learn as much about emotional intelligence and the energetics of that in order to become more regulated, more resilient, more confident, more communicative, because that's what the men want. They don't want a woman that's like having 50 different feelings and then they're like, dude, what's up with Debbie? Debbie's like, she looks like her eyes about to pop out of her head because she's got so many feelings going on. You definitely don't want to be in that kind of a situation. You want to be able to say, you know what, you haven't been putting the dishes in the dishwasher, and so I've been having to do that, but I'm also having to do this million other things. Can you please just, if for my benefit right now, can you just put the dishes in the dishwasher or whatever the situation is? I'm throwing that out as an example, but maybe that's causing her some issues. And if she's not able to speak it, then Todd is going to be like, I don't know what's going on with Debbie. She's like flips the fuck out all the time. So the emotional intensity, a temporary discomfort can happen. It might be very uncomfortable for you to face these feelings. I remember I was in a therapy session and my therapist goes, what would you tell Amelie, you as an adult, what would you tell Amelie as a child that would be different from the situation that you're looking at? And I remember just being speechless. I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't even thought of how I would interact with my younger self as my adult self right now, interacting with that. Because inner child work definitely comes into play with the shadow work. So we'll chat about that in a little bit. So the reopening wounds, we kind of talked about that, where we're like peeling this off. And if you don't have somebody that's there to give you aid, or maybe you're not able to aid yourself, it can kind of get a little intense in that way. So we want to be very loving with ourselves when we're doing this. I like to think that we're kind of going, I think a lot of people are kind of scared of water, but this is the best way that I can maybe say it, is that if you're diving deep into a dark water and you're going down and it's a little bit murky and you don't have very good sight beyond a certain point, and you're kind of shrouded in this cloudiness of the water when you're trying to kind of clean it up. So if you're jumping into like this murky water or this really deep trauma or whatever it is, you definitely want to have somebody there that you can pull the string and like, bring me back, So I definitely want to caution you, just if you're not able to get a coach, to find some sort of therapist that can take you on these journeys and help bring you back when you need to come back. So hypnotherapy is a great way to do it. Sometimes you can do activations. I have a great, I want to say it's like kind of like a prayer where you're kind of cutting some of these negative pieces that could be tied into you. You're kind of cutting those away. Some people have really interesting discussions on what that could look like, but yeah. So there's a relationship challenges. So the other thing about doing shadow work is sometimes when we are in our shadow and we're living in our shadow and we don't know it, we get into these relationships with people that complement the shadow. What do I mean by that? So me being a hyper vigilant, hyper independent woman, may typically partner with somebody, a male that is seemingly emasculated or doesn't have good relationship with their mother. So they're like kind of looking for this mother replacement. I have really strong mother energy. And so, like, my being is going to kind of bring in these men that may have terrible relationships with their mothers, which has happened. Not all the time, but it definitely has happened. So, when I started to wake up to that, of, oh, it feels like misalignment. And I think that's probably the best way to describe it. So, it's misalignment where in my being, I can feel like something is not right. I'm not connected to the situation. So, for example, I won't use a relationship, but I'll use my work relationship. So, in my work relationship, I had started in this role, and then over time it had changed, and I felt out of alignment. I was crying all the time. I was coming home, getting angry, like just all these things. My body was telling me, like, you're not in alignment. You're not in alignment. You need to go do the job that you're meant here to do. You need to go do your purpose and your mission work. Like, and it had been for a couple years. My body is telling me, well, probably since 2018 is really when it started, but it just gets louder and louder and louder the more that you avoid it. And so I found myself in misalignment. Well, as I'm in my job, I'm like also doing all this coach work where I'm doing all this shadow work and I'm putting in the effort of actually shifting and changing and really being forced into it, with some personal things that were going on in my life. So professionally and personally, and everything just seems like it's all chaos. And I'm like, what am I going to do? So relationships will shift once you start doing the shadow work. So one of the detriments is that you may, rupture is the best way I like to describe it, but you may discover that the relationships that you're in, maybe you have friend relationships, maybe your work relationships, you start to feel like I don't know that I'm really connected to you. I don't feel connected to this situation. Like, I my whole body is telling me like I need to change and be more in alignment with who I am, and have surround myself with people that are looking at my highest good and their highest good, because we're all like a little bit healthier or not in this shadow. That doesn't mean that you just like, sorry family, I'm I'm leaving you, I'm never talking to you again. You still act with honor and integrity, but you do so, in a more authentic way to yourself. So you'll start to see certain relationships that were done in a shadow piece start to rupture. So things will start to kind of fall apart. And I want to just express this to you guys so much, that if you surrender and trust and love the message that's coming to you, you'll be able to rebuild a new, better situation for yourself. So basically, it's like, people talk about manifestation, and I'm not entirely certain how I feel about manifestation, but let's say that this is the best way I've heard it described to me. Let's say that you're like, universe, I want to work in this purpose driven field, and I want to make X amount of money in this field, and I need you to take care of me, but this is what I desire. The universe is like, okay, and I'm sure you've seen like reels about it. I know I have. The universe is like, okay, that's what you want. Okay. And then it starts to shift things, and then things start to rupture, and you're like, oh my gosh, like things are falling apart. I wanted it to go this way, but it's like the universe's way of kind of moving the dial and changing it to where you're more in alignment with it. So it's like it's redialing. It's like putting it into perspective, and it's like, okay, that's what you wanted. You're going to get it. I remember when I was I think I was like 18, 19. I hadn't gone to college yet, but I was like, man, I'd really love to have this administrative job where I'm like working in an office and making all these cool like calls and shuffling paperwork and being really important. And I had this ideal that that was like, that's when I know I would have made it. And the funny thing is, like, I've been in that situation a couple times and it's not fulfilling to me anymore. It's kind of this empty dream. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, okay. I made it to there, but now it's not as fulfilling as it once sounded." It sounded like it was a great, like I've got my dream job from when I was like 18 years old. I'm doing great, but there's just something wasn't fulfilling. So when I was asking that, it came to me. But now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna shift these things here. So it's okay to change little things about what you want to do. Definitely okay, but it could it could cause some rupture when you're doing some of these shadow works. Um, All right, we're 51 minutes. Okay. Risk of isolation. So when I was telling you that you feel like you might be isolated, when you start to dive into some of these things, you will feel the isolation. And so it like I said, it's really really helpful to have a coach or a therapist there to guide you along so you're not doing it alone, and they can kind of bring you back to grounded, bring you back to your reality, that hey, this did happen to you. We're going to explore it as much as you want to, but then we're going to pull back and we're going to come back into ourselves and know that we have control over how these stories can be rewritten, or how the outcome, what the outcome of it is. So there could also be a feeling of false urgency. So false urgency being that you feel that you have, like, oh my gosh, I'm broken. I need to fix myself immediately. Otherwise, I'm not gonna, like, I'm broken. I'm not gonna be a whole person. And that can be really hard to kind of take in and feel that way. And that's why I say it's so important that you're working with a therapist, or with a coach, or somebody, maybe a friend, that can help bring you back to reality of, hey, that happened at this time, and here's what you've learned from it, or here's what you can learn from it, and we're gonna take that and we're gonna let it go back to the universe and say thank you for the experience. I've learned so much from it. I'm so in such gratitude for that situation, and now I'm gonna move on because it's not gonna hold me back anymore. So we're taking these detriments and we're turning them into the benefits. So misguided self work. So if you're doing this shadow work and you're not doing it with somebody that's guiding you along that path, then that can lead you into even more negative paths. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example. So I had a feeling of, I don't know if it was jealousy or envy of somebody at work, and I was like, oh, gross. This feeling is disgusting, and which is why I thought I felt disgust. But so I had this feeling, and I'm like, okay, I definitely don't want whatever this perceived feeling is. Like, where is this coming from? And if I wasn't able to see the patterns of that, then I wouldn't have discovered where it came from. It was a wound all the way back from when I was 5 and 6 years old, of my stepfather doting on his daughters, who are my stepsisters. And so I had this sister wound and then this father wound because he was like not giving me the emotional love and affection that a young girl should have, that has this perceived father figure. And then I had this mother wound. And then, so I'm like trifecta of wounds. So if I didn't have the self awareness and some of these other pieces that kind of keep me floated up, then I could have kind of gone in and just like been even more envious and more jealous or more angry or whatever the feeling is. Like it will kind of, you can go into this negative pattern. And so you want people around you that are going to lift you up and take you out of those scenarios. And then unrealistic expectations is the last detriment that we'll talk about. And then we're going to move into some of the practices that we can do, that you guys are welcome to do on your own. Just make sure that you have like, I just caution you, if you're going to do this work on your own, that you have like a safety net, somebody that you can talk to frankly about it. Either a friend, a parent, a family member, somebody that you're close to that you can kind of speak really candidly of like, hey, I just need to bounce this off somebody. I want them to hear this situation and what do you think about it? Kind of give me a little bit more guidance, which is why having a therapist or having a coach is really beneficial for you, because they're there to support you. They're there to help walk you through it. And if they've been doing it for a long time, then they're going to have a better vision of what you're doing, and then kind of help walk you out of that. So unrealistic expectations are thinking, oh yeah, I journaled for a week and now I'm over it. So, and then like a month later, the same problem comes back and you're like, oh, I'm not over it. I'm never going to get over it. And then you're like, sit in this disappointment. So, like I said at the beginning, healing is ugly. I'll repeat it again. Healing is ugly. Healing is ugly. It can get so nasty. But we have this like ideal of like, oh, everything's going to be better because that's what we're hoping for, which is great to have hope. But sometimes in the middle of that, like if you dislocate your shoulder, it's going to get ugly. You have to feel a little pop of pain before it goes back into alignment, right? So that is the same thing with emotions. Emotions are definitely like you're in this vibration of healing, and healing can hurt for a while. If you've ever, trying to think of a situation where, like, let's say you cut your arm open and then it's like, okay, it got stitched up and then now it's like scabbing over, but now it gets to this point of where I can't stop itching this. If I don't stop itching this, I'm going to get an infection, or I'm going to, damage something on my arm and you're going to get scarred forever. So when we talk about doing the shadow work and the shadow worth piece, is we are knowing that this is gradual, that it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to just automatically do that. The beautiful thing is there are tools that you can use, and we'll start talking about some of those. And a lot of these I use in my own personal group coaching courses, and in my personal coaching, I use these as well. And then I also use them for myself. So personally, I'll share some of the ones that I really enjoy using. So yeah, I hope everyone's good. I'm right on time. I need a sip of water though. Tara says healing is hard. It's not always fun and it can go in circles. Yes, it's a cyclical situation, especially when it comes to emotions. I like to say healing is ugly because it just sounds, I don't know. What do you guys think? Does it sound like, it sounds intense. Okay. I'm like, this is going to start on another topic, but I'm going to stop it there because we're going to continue talking about shadow work. Okay. So I pulled together 10 practices that will help uncover, understand, and integrate the hidden parts of yourself that we are looking to reveal. So, what do I mean when I say that? Like the example I gave you earlier today was I feel angry, but I can describe it in so many pieces, in so many ways I can describe it. So I'm looking at that and I'm like, that is some definite shadow work that I need to work on that has been revealed to me. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be able to be on this path to really face these things and to heal myself and to become a stronger, more poised, graceful, and beautiful person because I'm going to be authentic. I can use a string puller every once in a while. Woo! I hear you. So there's a lot of beauty that comes out of it because it starts to clean you up. You start to feel more regulated. Things that used to bother you don't bother you anymore. Oh, it really wasn't my husband. It was this piece in me that I needed to deal with, and now that behavior that used to trigger me, it doesn't no longer triggers me. And now in fact he doesn't even do it anymore because I don't even notice it. And it's even a better, more beneficial relationship. So the first thing is journaling. So journaling is very effective if that is something that speaks to you, or if it's something. I like to think about things that I did as a kid. So I loved journaling as a child. It was one of my favorite things to do. I had really cute books and I would like glue things in there. I draw pictures and every date, all the dates. So I even have one that's going right now. And so every time I'm going through something that's difficult or I need to like blot out on a piece of paper because I don't have somebody necessarily to talk to, I just like kind of throw up on in words in words in my journal, and then it keeps this record for me. And then if I feel like I need to tear a piece out and burn it because it doesn't serve me anymore, or I just get that like the the nudge to do that, then I can do that. So journaling is so important. If it's definitely useful if it's something that you did as a child, if it's something that you really enjoyed doing, I highly recommend journaling. If for some reason you don't want to write it out handwritten, you can journal in your phone or you can journal in your iPad. You can also sit and do voice memos and then label the voice memos of, whatever date it is, and then you can kind of put a topic on it so that if for some reason you want to come back to it or there's some time in the future that you want to go back and listen and like kind of hear what you had to say and maybe, oh, okay, I can like now I can listen to how I felt about it a month ago, and now that I'm playing it back, it's kind of a little bit silly. So let's go ahead and and work through that. I can work through it now. I know what I'm looking at. I know what to do. One of the questions that you can ask yourself is what emotion or belief did this trigger in me? So you're looking at what emotional response did I have? You know, I got annoyed that somebody left trash on, garbage all over the counter, or didn't take the garbage out, or whatever it is. I'm using these like homey examples, but anything can really get you there. And so you're going to write the emotion down. You definitely want to label the emotion. I kind of question this. I was like, do I really need to label the emotion? And yeah, I come to the conclusion that it is really helpful to label the emotion. It's really helpful to sit in it. Maybe there's a belief that has caused you to have a response. I see it all the time with religion, like, one religious sect is like, that other religious sect isn't the true way, like we're the true way. So you have these like beliefs, but if you get are challenged by somebody else's belief, like I definitely don't believe in that, and I'm getting pissed off that they believe that, then we want to look at that belief, because if you're having a negative, especially if you're having a negative emotional response, you want to be able to look at that and say, I don't, why am I having this negative response from this belief? Or maybe you have a story that you believe of, I'm trying to think of stories that I've recently rewritten. One story that I can think of is that I will be single for the rest of my life. I believe that when I was 30. I was like, nobody is ever going to want to be in a relationship with me. I'm just going to be in this disconnected relationship, and that's as good as it's going to get. And I had to really look at that belief or that story and rewrite it, because that is not true. And in fact, if the story didn't go the way that I thought, which it didn't, I changed it. I made some conscious decisions that affected my life. Believe all stories. I mean, you can if you want to. Margie says, always put a date. Yes, put a date on it, because it's really nice to be able to come back to the dates that you have and see like how much you've progressed, because then you'll be able to like say, oh man, I can't believe I was dealing with that. Like, that's so long ago, and now I'm totally in tune and aligned with where I'm at right now. And that belief or that trigger or that story is no longer true. And so being able to consciously rewrite those things is is very beneficial. Another question you can ask yourself is, what does this say? What does this say about a part of myself that I might be avoiding? So obviously, when I looked at the emotions wheel and I'm like, man, I'm feeling anger, I was avoiding dealing with a lot of these feelings. And so I was like, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of shadow work that I've got to do. And I'm ready. I'm resilient. I'm aware. I'm ready to take these on. And oh yeah, I am on Instagram. I'm on Instagram. Can I chat? Wait, let me see. I can't chat right now, but I think it's on in my Facebook, and I'm also on Instagram. I'm on Instagram at Soulestic Intelligence, at Soulestic Intelligence. So obviously, I was avoiding a lot of these angry feelings, and is shadow work like witchcraft? I would not believe all women's stories. I don't agree with that, Sato. Is shadow work like witchcraft? I would say no. Like we are working on taking negative emotions that are holding you back, and we're transmuting them into positive things so that you're vibrating and resonating at a higher level. So, shadow work is, I just went through a bunch of examples of the benefits of them, but it's looking at things that possibly trigger you and changing those into accountability or ways that you can elevate yourself with that. Do I have an online store too? I do not have an online store, but I do offer coaching courses. Then the next thing I have here is an example of shadow work is mirror work. So It's actually looking at yourself in the mirror and saying positive things about yourself and affirming or speaking truth about yourself. And so that's really helpful for some people. I've heard a lot of really beneficial things come from it. If we think about this, and I'm very passionate about this, so you can look in the mirror and say it. However, like even before that, you're planting a seed of yourself, in yourself. So if you plant a seed that I am stupid, and you continue saying that over and over again, your body starts to believe that story. And I am not a Wiccan. Your body starts to believe that story. And so it could be a thought, and then you could speak it, and then it becomes reality because we are all children of God, and God is, He spoke into existence, and we have the ability to do the same thing. So if we think something or we speak something, I've seen it on such a crazy level that it's really powerful. No, it's really powerful. So when before my mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer, I was joking around a lot online and saying, I have, I am so unemotional, like I never cry and I need to cry more. Then my mom was diagnosed, like literally, I was saying this for like 2 years. And then when my mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer, I couldn't help but think, like, oh my gosh, I was saying that over and over again. And here I am, I can't stop fucking crying. So when we speak things into existence, like it hit me so hard, and I'm like, I can't blame myself for her situation. Obviously, that was a situation that happened, but like the way that we speak and the conduct of what our mind is speaking and what we're speaking and we're bringing into existence, I caution everyone to be very, very careful. This is a really extreme example, but there are a lot of less extreme situations where this is the case. So if you start thinking about the things that you say to yourself, the things that you think about yourself, like even just a thought, in the New Testament, Jesus says, like even thinking about a woman vilely, like in with inappropriateness, is adultery. Like you're thinking it. So when we posit that into our communication, we're really thinking about how that has a strong effect. The things that we say definitely ripple, and so I genuinely caution you about any of that. So when you're speaking these affirmations, like kindness about yourself, kind of think about how you're emotionally feeling towards that. Like, like I could say, I love my job, my current job that I put my resignation in for. I could say, I definitely love my job. That was true, a year ago, but slowly over time, it's become not true. My job is not in alignment with who I am today. And so I have to take a deep look at, why am I feeling that discomfort when I say, "Oh yeah, I love my job." Okay, I'm obviously uncomfortable about it. I need to figure out a different job that is going to serve me and be purpose-filled, soul-led. Okay. Number 3 is inner child visualization. And this is something that I had chatted with you about beforehand. So some people can do hypnosis on this. Some people can meditate, which is another acceptable way of doing that, or journaling. I find that having a guided meditation is a lot easier because it kind of prompts you a little bit deeper than it prompts you a little bit deeper. And I've had some pretty significant change. This isn't necessarily my favorite one, but it does help if, especially if you close your eyes and you're a very visual person. The visualizations are very helpful. I find that writing or just listening, the listening visualization helps me, the journaling helps me, and writing letters to yourself, comforting your inner child. So, the inner child in me that's like, oh, I needed emotional comfort from my male caregiver who didn't give that to me. I have to come in now and say, okay, you're okay, you're comforted, and really comfort that part of me. And so we want to address those unmet needs. So if you had any unmet needs or fears from childhood, the comfort of, one, acknowledging it, and then two, just being available for that inner child is helpful. My mama passed away in 2022, and I still take medicine to keep me from crying. I I feel you, and I've come to terms with my mother's passing. It was very difficult, but she just passed away last year. So I'm not going to say that it's easy. It's definitely not. And I found that I had a lot of codependency, and it was really hard for me to kind of say, you know what, I have a mother wound from her choosing this man and him doting on his girls and not sharing that with me. He was very cold and callous towards me. And I was, under 7, so I really didn't have any choice in the matter. Not even if I was under 7, but so patterns and projection analysis is another one, is noticing the repeat patterns in your life. So for me, like noticing, like, I choose these jobs that tend to be a little bit more analytical and spatial, when I really need to like complement that with being creative and creating something beautiful. Thank you, Sato. Oh, please don't be sorry. It did help me address a lot of anger issues, codependencies that I had, and so I had to face these things and then grow from it. So recognizing negative patterns. So if you like, for me, I'm like, oh, I continuously resonate or magnetize certain relationships or certain jobs where finally at the end of it, I'm like, dude, what am I doing? I'm doing this again. So once you start learning from that, then you can transmute that and see the see the have the awareness of, I'm in this relationship, but I want it to be this type of relationship. So these unresolved emotions or these unresolved beliefs can still just continue to bring in the same thing. Like, I'm sure you've heard of it. Like, the girlfriend breaks up with the guy and then she gets with another guy, and she's basically in the same situation and just kind of turning out all these relationships when it's probably an unresolved emotion or an unresolved belief in herself that this is the best that she's going to do. Not speaking of anybody in particular, but this is kind of what I tend to see in the culture. Okay. So this one's really fun because we've been talking about it, but what do I dislike in others? Exercise. So this is where we're going to sit and list traits that Maybe somebody that you can think of is very annoying to you or just frustrates you to no end. You'll sit there and write their traits down. But then you have to consider how those traits that you're annoyed by, how they sit in your own system. This is a bear. It's a bear and then a little flower wreath that I made, I think this year. So the other thing that you can do, number 6, is a shadow self letter. So you write a letter to your shadow self, acknowledging its existence and expressing gratitude for it, for protecting you, even if it was misguided, protecting you in situations that you needed protection. So we kind of talked a little bit about that. These are kind of going to start overlaying on each other, but that can be another way to overcome the shadow letter and the gratitude that you can have towards your shadow it can feel exhilarating. So I definitely would suggest looking at the shadow aspects of yourself and thanking it and then letting it go. So another thing that you could do is have a shadow dialogue. So engage in a written conversation between your conscious self and part of your shadow. If you can do that, then you can definitely kind of go back and forth with that. That kind of goes into the journaling or into the shadow self letter. You want to write it down or get it out so that it's on paper and you're looking at it from a, like it's almost like it's more real when you bring it up like this. Number 7 is a shadow dialogue. Number 8 is a self-compassion meditation. So meditations and visualizations and any other way that you can, like if you really enjoy audio, like you're an audio learner, then audio is a great way to kind of connect with yourself in guided meditations. There's tons of stuff on YouTube that you can look into that people have supplied for. Am I still here? I don't know what happened. I think I'm still here. Anyways, well, I'll continue going on like I am. I just have a couple more to go. So we've got the self-compassion meditation. So things like I see you, I accept you, you're part of me. Just really like deepening into that self-connection and giving yourself love that we all need to experience, but just having that love of yourself. Thank you, Margie. The number 9 is the why do I feel this way inquiry. When we feel strong emotions, like let's say at work, like something just really, I do this all the time at work. I'm like, like, why is this making me feel this way? Why am I feeling this way? And so I kind of sit in that and I'm like, okay, I'm feeling this feeling. I'm going to let it flow through. And then why am I feeling this way? And you can write down or you can think about it and maybe take a drive or whatever comforts you, just thinking of ways to kind of to reflect on it. So this inner reflection is a very strong aspect of when you gain this awareness and the resilience and the regulation, because we're working on having a little bit more control of our inward parts instead of trying to control others. So, for example, why am I angry? Because I feel ignored. Why do I feel ignored? Because I crave acknowledgement I didn't get as a child. So that got really deep really quickly. And then you can kind of go into, okay, what situations did I not get acknowledged and who was doing it to me? Was it more than one caregiver? Was it, my brothers or my sister or my mother or my father, whoever it is, like what about that situation? So really just kind of digging until you get to a certain level. Is Spice Fair in chat? I have no idea. Explore past mistakes without judgment. So reflect on past actions you feel shame or regret over. And instead of looking at it from a critical perspective, you're going to look at it of why, how did that protect me? How did that motivate me? Or how did that influence me to become that shadow part of myself, to freeze that out, or whatever the flow is there. So we're we're not trying to like negatively criticize. We're trying to look at it from a realist perspective, to mentally look at it from, okay, how did that protect me? How did that serve me to have that fear? The fear of abandonment. How did that serve me? Well, it froze a lot of feelings that I didn't have to feel at the moment. It got me through some really difficult times. But now that I'm in a place where I feel secure, I'm able to look at those feelings, uncover them, and alchemize them into something that is more positive, something that is going to serve me more, and something that is going to help me really reignite myself into a position of where I feel aligned and just aligned, but we want to be in joy. We want to be in rapture. We want to be in, like, I think if we've ever experienced those feelings, it definitely feels a lot better to be in those situations than it does for you to be in these shadowy aspects of ourselves, because it does hold us back a little bit. It does feel uncomfortable and out of alignment a lot of the time. So when I say that healing is ugly, it ruptures, things kind of get a little bit chaotic for a moment, but then it like settles, and then you can kind of pick up the pieces and go from there. And that is completely okay. So I want to open up a Q&A. I don't know. I don't know if that's how I want to do it. If anybody has any questions, I have probably about maybe like 8 minutes left. We can chat about it. I don't know how, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that, oh, that's a highlight. Cute. If there's no questions, we can definitely just chat about some of the things that I offer. Right now, I have a course that is for women called Inner Worth Framework, and we go over this on a little bit more personalized level. So I am offering up spaces in those in my coaching course for women. It is a 12-week course, so it is a little intensive. However, they are really great to build yourself into a confident, strong woman. And I can tell you that I've had a lot of really, really difficult transitions that I've had to do. Any good I've done a lot of transformation, like I've done a lot of coaching courses, and so I'm just happy to now be offering my services to them. Seda says, can you share any good rituals, or do they not work if you don't keep them secret? Are you alluding to if I'm a like some sort of Wiccan or do witchcraft or something? Because I definitely don't. Some rituals that I do are waking up at the same time in the morning and eating the same thing for breakfast. But if there are no questions, I can definitely hop off. And like I said, I appreciate everybody for coming in and joining me and having an open discussion about shadow work. It, I find that the more you get comfortable with it, the a lot easier it is. So I can definitely recommend it. But okay. All right. Well, please, please join me on Instagram at Soulestic Intelligence. You can also join me on Facebook. I think I'm at Amale's Love is my personal one, or I'm at Soulestic Intelligence. I have a business page up there for my podcast. So some of the things in this will. The shadow is. So the question is not sure or the statement is I'm not sure, not really sure I understand the shadow yet or not. So the shadow are aspects of where there's fear or there's like negative emotions that you're feeling, and or maybe you're not feeling any feelings at all, which is not healthy either. We're all energy beings. We want things to kind of flow through us. We can, if we're really tapped into it, we can feel it. So the shadow is things that you've repressed that are having some sort of impact on you today. So for example, when I said I was feeling frozen, then yeah. Oh, shadow work, like what Peter Pan is trying to do, catch a shadow. Um, Peter Pan is definitely that is a deep story. But yeah, shadow work is getting through the trauma or getting through whatever the wounding is, so that you're not reliving it all the time. That it's healed and you can kind of elevate from that position into a higher position. So we can definitely chat about it. I'm on Instagram at Soulestic Intelligence, and it's Soulestic Intelli Intelligence. I think my profile here has a similar at sign. It's hard for me to remember all of them. And I'm also on Substack. I have a newsletter on Substack. My daughter says, "What keeps me down?" Yeah. It'll hold you back for sure. And then I'm on Substack at Soulestic. So if you want to subscribe to my newsletter there, I am going to be posting weekly on there as well. Maybe more, maybe less, depending on what kind of topics I have. My daughter is what keeps me down, so she must be my child. Children could definitely be. Children can definitely trigger you, or they can be a very big inspiration to you. And so I hope that it's the latter. But anyhow, I am on all of those. I will try and have the links in my profile here so that you guys can see me there and kind of catch some lives. I do Instagram lives quite often. So if you want to catch some more, just like smaller snippets of this, the podcasts are going to be a little bit more long term. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for joining episode 6. Shadow worth is the topic, and I hope that you guys got a lot out of this. And if you have any questions, please pop them down in the chat. I'll be answering them as they come through. So I hope this serves as an inspiration to you and it helped you to look at something a little bit differently and maybe grow from. So bye, guys.